Hi, welcome. This is Mark Haw with the 85%. Welcome back for those of you that have made it through this our second episode. And this is a podcast dedicated to volunteer combination departments, which make up 85% of the fire service. So um, I'm really super excited this month to have Brandon Fletcher, Chief Brandon Fletcher of the Gilt Edge, Tennessee Fire Department on here. And I've known him, gosh, it's been like 10, 12 years now. I knew him way before I was in the fire service. So, caveat, I work for the Clarion Group, which owns um, FDIC, fire engineering, and I working in the book group. And we met, been a long time. So I'm excited to have him on here because he's someone that I've talked to a lot. I mean, on a semi-regular basis, and I even lean on him on even more now that I'm actually in the fire service. So anyway, welcome, Chief. Thanks thanks for being here. And let I know I did a very condensed bio. Please let the world know your bio and tell us a little bit about your fire service career.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first, thanks for having me. And I don't remember the exact date that we met, but I do remember the situation. So myself and buddy of mine, assistant chief now in a neighboring department there, Covington Fire Department here in Tipton County, Jeremy Channel, we were on our way to the Les Lukert Winter Conference in Kearney, Nebraska, which is coming up in February 2025. So I'll do a shameless plug there for that conference. That is a great conference. Don't be intimidated by Nebraska in February. It is a fantastic conference. So get out there and just give that one a Google. It's the Nebraska Society of Fire Service Instructors that put that one on. But anyway, Chief Channel and I, we were on our way, and we decided to kind of take a roundabout way to Kearney, through Tulsa, where the headquarters was. I guess still is, but you were working. I think you had just started with fire engineering books and videos, and so we had stopped in there to see some people that we knew. And they introduced us to you, and I guess we just hit it off because the three of us ended up going to lunch there. I don't remember the location, but it was a really good lunch, and we had a good time. And then from then on, we just would see each other at FDIC and conferences, and now we chit chat and talk. And I'm happy when you told me that you were able to do the work from home thing and join the local volunteer fire department and everything. I thought that was awesome. So. As far as me, I'm a pretty simple guy. I learned a long time ago, like teaching. They always would ask you when you teach places, give us the bio or whatever. And I'm thinking like, okay, bio for for printed materials kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then not knowing that, like when they go to introduce you, right, they're going to stand up there and they're going to read your entire bio, and then you're just sitting there like as you're waiting to come on stage, and they're reading, and they're like, oh my gosh, did I really give them that much stuff to say? Like I'm kind of embarrassed now. So I just keep it simple. So I am the fire chief in Gilt Edge, Tennessee. I started here as a volunteer when I was 18 years old. Second generation. Dad was a founding member here. Uncle's still on the fire department here. So I've been doing this for 24 years. I've been fortunate enough to not just volunteer here, but work a couple of career jobs as well in some different locations in West Tennessee. I'm a student of the fire service. Regardless of how many trainings and certifications and titles and all that stuff that I have, I'm still, 24 years later, I'm learning something new every single day. And I'm fortunate enough to have had a lot of really good mentors along the way that have taught me a lot, pointed me in the right direction. I've been in the right place at the right time, met the right people to be able to do what I do, out on the road and getting to teach about a lot of the experiences and stuff that I have picked up on, both from being a volunteer firefighter and then now as a chief, the lessons that I've learned in kind of leading a volunteer fire department in today's world, which is significantly different than 24 years ago when I started out as a firefighter. So that's if you want to know more, ask. But I mean, that's all you're going to get like freely from me. How about that?
Okay. So, well, you started at 18. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I did. I started at 18. At the time, we didn't have a junior program. We do have a junior program now, but I know some places, juniors are able to start like, as early as like 14. We're not able to do that, at least with our insurance company. 17 is the earliest that they'll let us bring somebody on. But yes, I started at 18. And even though it was a family thing, and I grew up around the firehouse and everything, like I was never like pressured to join the fire department. It was kind of one of those things that, yeah, I knew I was going to do it. But like my daddy never like, oh, you need to join the fire department kind of thing. It was kind of like he let me come to him and say, all right, I think I'm ready to do this. So yeah, I turned 18 in August of 2000, and I joined the volunteer fire department in October of 2000.
That's awesome. So, do you remember? You remember your first call, by chance?
First call, probably not the very first call, because I'm going to imagine it was probably an insignificant EMS call.
Yeah,
because we do run EMS, and not, as like not all of them are like life-saving, glamorous, Instagram sexy type stuff,
yeah.
but I do remember like two very early calls, very early on. So I remember my first CPR
Wow.
call, which was within the first couple of weeks, and it was it was one of that today we would not have done CPR, but the protocols at the time was, we had to work them until, the paramedics got there, and the paramedics had to call, the doctors to call it. And it was an obvious DOA,
Yeah.
but I remember that one. And I remember my first fire. Okay. My
Yeah.
first structure fire. And the reason I remember, because it's your first structure fire, but
Yeah.
I remember it for a multitude of reasons, because some things happened there that were not supposed to happen, that worked out really good for me.
Uh-huh.
um, so things were different then than they are now, with regard to like the minimum amount of training you have to have before you get on the fire truck. So at the time, like, I had come on, got in the gear, started learning, may or may not have had a date for like recruit class or anything yet. Because I know recruit class came on, in 2021 when I started doing the recruit class. So I say joined in October 2000. Somewhere in that first month, we get dispatched for a structure fire. Show up and get on the rig. So let's see, my uncle is driving. Let's see, dad's in the officer seat. I'm in the back seat in the middle seat. Okay.
Yeah.
Tony, a guy named Tony Broadway. I think it was. Hell, I say that. I think it was Tony Broadway. Was in the left seat, next to me behind the driver, and a fellow named John Paul Walker was in the right seat, jump seat there next to me. And so anyway, we're packing up, right? Well, I'm new. Like I haven't been to recruit school and had a live burn, right? So I'm like an exterior only firefighter, right?
Yeah.
So pretty much the expectation is, if we show up and this is an interior attack, like my job is to kind of be like at the door feeding hose. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so we pull up and this thing is ripping, right? And at least it looks like it. Now, once you hear the circumstances, you realize why it looked like it was ripping. It actually wasn't that bad of a fire, but it looks like it's vented through the roof, like, and it's blasting, like, it's blowtorching, like 20, 30 feet up in the air. And this is like it's a weird deal. It's like a 1.5 story, but then like it had a walkout basement. So it's like split level on the first floor with like a walkout basement and then an attic and everything. So a very oddly constructed home for our area. Like that's it's kind of like the only home in our jurisdiction that's even remotely like that. And so this thing, it's blasting out the roof, right? So John Paul, his job is to stretch the line. Tony's the backup. I'm just kind of assisting, however I can, with the intent of getting up to the door and just helping to feed hose for these guys, right? And of course, Dad, he's the officer, he's IC, Uncle, he's pumping, right? So they get the line stretched off. And so this is funny. Another reason that I remember this is so we had the old, it was MSA ultralight packs that, it had the old elephant trunk and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember as I'm exiting out of the pumper, my high pressure hose, gets caught on the door handle. Okay, and so like I'm stepping off the truck, and I can't go any further, and I'm trying to figure out, and so apparently this wasn't the first time that this had happened, just with the style of packs and the way the door handles were made. So the uncle comes over there, kind of gets me disentangled, right? Well, as was common with those MSA ultralights at the time, the gasket where you connected your elephant trunk down to your belt regulator, a lot of times those would those would crack, or something would happen with those. And so, unbeknownst to anybody else except me, but I didn't know to say anything. Tony had that happen to his pack. Okay, so he's out of commission for the moment, right? He's snagging another pack, or doing whatever, getting that fixed up, right? And so I come up behind John Paul, who's got the line to the front door, everything stretched out, flaked out. Okay. And back then, like we didn't have, like, I had this old canary yellow turnout gear, like long coat. I mean, I had bunker pants and all that, but like it didn't have your name on the back of it. Your name wasn't on the helmet or anything. So you really
Yeah.
didn't know who was who, right? And so Dad just assumed that I was Tony.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And so he looks at me and John Paul, and he's like, "Y'all go in there and get it," And so I'm just following orders, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'd been trained enough to know how to be a backup man, and like so I'm humping line in there with John Paul, and we get in there, and there was this it's like a laundry closet. They had lit a candle and set it in there because they had burnt some squash or something on the stove, right? And they were
Uh-huh.
just trying to like put something that smelled better, right? And it ends up, I
Uh-huh.
guess, catching some stuff on fire that was hanging up above the washer dryer. And this particular closet, like, it went straight up to the attic, like it was unchecked all the way to the
Oh.
attic. It's kind of a weird, again, like I say, this is a weird constructed home, right? And so directly, I guess, above that was an attic fan. Okay. And so
Mhm.
this fire had burnt up this chute unchecked to the attic, and had burned out where the attic fan was mounted into the roof, right? And so that's why it looked like this thing had vented the roof, and it was blowtorching, and all this. And so we shoot some water up through there, get some steam conversion, knocks it down. Attic access was right there. We pull the attic access. Me and John Paul, we head up into the attic with the line. And it was a very tall, very high pitched roof. So like you get up in the attic, like you can stand up and everything. And so,
Yeah.
we're knocking this thing out. And again, probably didn't use, I doubt we used 100 gallons of water.
Yeah.
It was a very quick, like open, close, done, right? And just, for a rookie that literally had just, trained on the training nights, hadn't been, like, wasn't supposed to be there. Like,
Yeah.
it was pretty freaking awesome, to be honest with you, right? Like, so this is what it's like, like all these fires are going to be like this easy. And so anyway, we get it down. Of course, we didn't have thermal imagers or anything at the time, so you really kind of had to like dig around in the attic insulation, make sure that there weren't any hot spots and everything. And so anyway, we come down, we come out, and I don't think Dad realized until I came out and took my helmet off and mask and everything that it was me. And he's like, "What were you doing in there?" It's like, "You told me to go with John Paul." And he's like, "What?" You know? so so that was my first fire. I wasn't even supposed to be in it. I just did what I was told.
That's
Mistaken I did.
that's awesome. That's so cool. That I love the fact that it's like your whole family is riding is
Well, and
like
so what's
in the
funny
rig.
too, though, right? That's my first fire, right? That house is actually for sale now, and it has been
Uh,
very nice. It was a very nice house to begin with, and it's been remodeled and everything. And it's like $800,000 home,
uh-huh.
which is a pretty expensive home for our area. Like, which, I mean, it sits on a pretty decent plot of land as well. But like, yeah, like I saw the pictures, just looking at the listing, and I'm like, that house didn't look nothing like that, when 20 something years ago. But that closet, like the laundry closet, I get to that. Of course, it doesn't show if it still goes all the way up unchecked, but I'm sitting there looking, it's like, I know where that's at.
Yeah, that's funny. That's awesome. Um, so your department, it's I was looking online. You guys are a one station department, right?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
so how are you guys organized? Like, it's you're the chief, and then what? How's like how many volunteers? How many? You're as chief? Are you a paid chief? Or are you?
No.
Oh, so all
So
volunteer.
so it's all volunteer. Now we do have a safer funded stipend program.
Hmm.
That so there is a little bit of not you're not going to pay the bills with it or anything, but I mean there is a little bit of money to be made through that stipend program. But no,
Yeah.
it's a all volunteer fire department. I'm not compensated. As the chief, nobody's compensated. In fact, the city only has one paid employee. It's a part-time position for the city recorder that handles all of our finances, everything. The mayor, the alderman, none of those are compensated positions. But as far as our organization, excuse me, as far as our organization goes, we have 17 volunteers. We cover about 42 square miles out of that single station. That single station is pretty centrally located within that 42 square miles. There's around about 4,400 people that live in that in our fire district. We last year we responded, I think 605 responses total, and I think this year we're going to be down a little bit. We had a few frequent flyers that are no longer with us, so our numbers are down a little bit, but we're still going to be in the 550 range and everything. And so we've been over 500 runs a year for 3 or 4, maybe up to 5 years now. Pretty good stretch there. And it's funny looking back because I remember, when I started, like maybe we did 100, maybe 150 calls a year because I know it was a big deal when we cracked 200, and it was a big deal when we cracked 250 and 3, and and so on and so forth. And so I think we're all kind of glad after doing the 605 last year, none of us are complaining that it's down to the 550 range. I honestly, it's a double-edged sword, with retention, because you join the department because you want to do stuff, you want to help the community, you want that excitement, whatever people's motivation is that gets them in, and hopefully it becomes about community service once we hook them through the door, right? They want to do stuff, and one of the things that I teach, with regard to like retention is first and foremost, it starts with leadership. We got to treat our people right, okay? If you're not treating people right, they're not going to stay. If it's not fun to come to the firehouse, nobody's going to come to the firehouse. Okay. The other huge component on retention is training, right? So you got to have a training program that is fun, exciting, realistic. Like, we're training on stuff that's pertinent and relevant to the organization. We're doing real training, because you're high performing people. They want to come on drill night and they want to do something. They want to do something to get better and have a good time, right? And then the other thing that we don't have control over, I make the joke, like, you don't have control over your call volume, right? Controlling your call volume, that's how you go to jail, So
Yeah.
your call volume is what it is, okay? And so there's a line there, right? Of like having enough calls that people stay engaged and motivated because they know the pager could go off literally at any time, because it does, right?
Yeah.
And then where is that mark where now you hit that tipping point where it's like, okay, this is more work than it is fun because the pager is always going off, right? And so where is that line? I know for us, because our numbers fluctuate. We're at 17 right now. We typically 15, 16, 17 is kind of about average for us. We've had as many as, it being in the low 20s, 25 maybe. But in those, that's great when everybody's trained up. But, we've been as low as 10, 11, 12 at times, right? And that's looking at things historically going all the way back to 1986 when the department was founded. When you look at the numbers, that's kind of the fluctuation, with the average being 15, 16, 17 folks, right? And so when you've got just that number of folks, and we do a pretty good job of weeding out, non-hackers, if you will, folks that just want a t-shirt and a title. So maybe our percentage of active folks is a little bit higher than what we would normally say. Like, oh, I got 30 guys on the roster, but really only 10 ever show up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everybody's 100%. Everybody's what they're able to give is different, right? Because everybody's got different, family obligations, work obligations, so on and so forth, right? And somebody might be giving you all that they can give you, and it doesn't look the same as somebody that is single and no kids and has a lot of free time on their hands, kind of thing, right? So you still end up with that core group, that 5, 6, 7 folks that probably do the most work, and that doesn't make everybody else a bad person. They're contributing where they can. But we work hard to kind of keep the non-hackers, the t-shirt wearers out of the mix. But I mean, continuing on describing our jurisdiction, we run non-transport EMS. So kind of a first responder type EMS service. We have EMRs, EMT basics, advanced EMTs, paramedics, all that fun stuff. And so with that, the bulk of our calls is are medical in nature. Probably not the 80-85%, like I guess the national average. Probably more down closer to the 70% range, the high 60s, low 70% range. We have a sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but when you travel other places, you realize like we have a pretty decent automatic aid system in place for structure fire response. So with that, we provide automatic aid to the Garland Fire Department, Brighton Fire Department, Munford Fire Department, Tipton County Fire Department. And of course, they automatic aid us, and the Covington Fire Department also provides automatic aid to us. And of course, then we're mutual aid as requested anywhere, typically for a tanker, on a rural county structure fire, stuff like that. So we do get to go, maybe not first due. First due, we probably see maybe like a handful of structure fires a year. But we get the opportunity to go to other people's fires, which is always much more fun than having one in your first due. But yeah, I mean, so that's kind of us in a nutshell as far as how we're organized. We are a municipal volunteer fire department, so we don't have we're not like an independent 501c3 or C6, with a board of directors. Our board of directors are the elected mayor and alderman for the city of Gilt Edge. We provide fire protection for the city of Burleson, which is next door to the city of Gilt Edge, and then an unincorporated area outside of both of those cities.
Okay. In a lot of ways, I think so. I've always heard this saying, hey, one fire department, then one fire department, which I never quite understood that until I live on Anderson Island, which is Washington State, and we're super unique. In a lot of ways, we're a lot like you guys, but in a lot of ways, we're really different. There's no mutual aid. We have mutual aid agreements, so maybe 2 or 3 times we've had another apparatus on this island, but you basically have to take a ferry across. And one was a guy was stuck in a tree, and we don't have a ladder truck, so okay, so one I can't remember but it was we're on our own basically, but we have about 25 people, but our call volume is a lot less. We have about 200 a year, so I can't imagine 15 people, 600 calls a year. You guys are moving.
It's it's something. And with that, I mean, we're a respond from home department. Now that said, in January we moved into a new station annex. I'm actually sitting in the chief's office right now. And so we actually have an office for the officers and the chief, and a day room and bunk rooms. We have a training classroom, kitchen, bathroom with showers and stuff. So one, folks can come down, they can stay the night, which makes it kind of a nice opportunity for folks that maybe don't live in the district. Historically, before we had this, I mean, we would open it up, within reason, and then we'd explain to folks, look, you live far enough away that, you're not going to make that first truck out, but here are some ways you can still serve. But it was kind of hard to ask people to stay in what was kind of the day room, which was like a little lean-to addition built onto the apparatus bay, and there were some couches and recliners kind of stuff. Now, it's like, look, you got the full amenities. Like you can come down, you can cook a meal, you can take a shower, you got a real bed to sleep in, comfortable bed too, by the way. and,
Yeah.
and so, it's opened up some opportunities, and we have several folks now that live, a decent amount away, that come in and do 24 hours or a little more, a few times a month, and so it kind of opens up your recruiting a little bit. When you do have the call volume to say, hey, I can't promise you a fire, but you're probably going to do a run or two, while you're here, if you stay for 24 hours. We have excellent equipment, so you're not, running around like, with hose that, with holes in it and things like that. Like you've got some nice equipment to operate with. We train a lot. We bring in outside people to train. We bring in our State Fire Academy, and of course, we do a ton of internal training. We're able to handle most of our recruit training aside from the live burn here on site. We have to send them somewhere for the firefighter 1 and 2 live burn. We're able to provide the EMR training in house as well. So that makes it very attractive and makes it pretty easy in the grand scheme of things. When I say easy, it's not easy. Actually, it's complicated as all get out
Uh-huh.
to manage all of that. But in that sense, because we have people that are willing to do that and put in that work, it makes it easier in a sense to get people trained. Obviously, the more
Yeah.
stuff you add to the plate, the more complicated things become overall. But we're not sitting here at the mercy of, hey, when's somebody going to do a recruit class? When's somebody going to do an EMR class? And I remember that, as a volunteer when I came in 2000, there was probably going to be a recruit class in the county maybe once a year. And so, but you were just kind of at the mercy of the instructor, when they were going to put one on, and if, for medical training, same thing, if you couldn't make the schedule, you couldn't make the schedule, and there was only just a couple opportunities here and there, each year. So, some places, you might go a year or two before you got all of the training that you needed, to be, I guess, proper, in responding to calls. And, we're able to cut down that time frame a good bit, and do a lot of stuff in house and still it be a quality product.
That's awesome. So do you guys so you have a drill night, and then like for the like fire one, those are obviously, or your EMT or whatever, those are like added like other additional nights during the week, or how do you guys usually
Yeah,
manage that?
so we drill every Monday night, and that's it's kind of funny traveling around. So yeah, so I don't think anything of it. Okay, we made that decision collectively several years ago to start drilling once a week, um, and before that, yeah, we did the every other Thursday or every other Monday, so twice a month. Plus, we'd throw a Saturday in there, so 3 times a month. So before the 3 times a month, it was 2 times a month, and it's been at least 2 times a month since the beginning of the department in 1986. But for years now, we've been doing the once a week thing, and I don't think anything of it. And then I go places, and particularly if I'm teaching my Shaping Your Volunteer Fire Department class, and I talk about training, and I ask, about training being a priority. Is training a priority in your organization? Everybody's like, oh, yeah, training's a priority. Absolutely. Yeah, we train. All right, cool. Like, how often do y'all drill? And there's like tons of departments that still only drill like once a month, twice a
Wow.
month, and then every now and then you'll see one that's like, oh yeah, we drill every week, and these places where they drill like once a month, twice a month, and they're like, well, how often does your department drill? And I'm like, I'm kind of embarrassed to say now, not embarrassed, but like I know the faces I'm going to get, like, yeah, we drill every Monday night, except for the week of Christmas. So 51 times a year we're drilling.
Yeah.
And of course we don't expect, you know, everybody to make 51 drills out of the year. I mean, like we're realists, but my whole thing with that is like, I'm trying to remember. It's 100 and something. I'd have to dig through the phone and find the picture where we did the math or whatever. But I counted up the number of skills that are in firefighter one. and then counted up the number of skills that are in firefighter 2 and HMA and HMO, which are prerequisites for all that. And to me, in my mind, and I'm not going to say that with absolute certainty that 100% of the personnel are able to hit those refreshers every single year, right? I mean, even drilling 51 times a year, like that's still a pretty tall order. But we're not even talking EMS. We're not even talking tech rescue. We're not even talking, hazmat beyond the operations level. Just to be a functioning firefighter 2, there's almost 200 skills, if not more. And I should have looked that up because I got it in my phone for future reference, right? But so how do you maintain? I'm not even talking about advancing to mastery, okay? How do you maintain some semblance of proficiency in the basic skills expected of you as a firefighter if you're only drilling 12 times a year? And then, of course, you ask the question, so, all right, so 12 times a year, do 100% of the department, do they make all 12 drills or all 24 drills? And they're like, no. So again, tell me how you can just maintain a baseline proficiency 12 to 24 times a year. All right.
Yeah.
But to go back to your question, so we drill, once a week. And then with regard to that recruit training, so some of that may take place on a drill night. So like if we know that we've got 2, 3, or even one new person that needs to start hitting their skills checkoffs, right? Then we'll incorporate that into a drill. But when I have somebody or multiple people that are going through, whether it's the initial 16-hour training that the state requires before you can run a call, or we're getting into the 64-hour minimum standard, or the firefighter 1, firefighter 2, or HMA, HMO, we will set that up on a schedule that works for our in-house instructors as well as the personnel that are going through that training. We do the same thing for EMR. So it's usually going to be some nights. You may get some stuff at drill, but it's usually going to be some nights and some Saturdays in addition to drill night. So it's a lot of work. And so one of the things that I try to do, like bringing in new people, is I try to lay it all out there on the line. Like, look, your first year here is a massive time commitment. Okay. I'm just being real with you. This is the number of hours of training you're looking at. Like, I'm basically trying to give you like every negative aspect that might talk you out of wanting to do this. And folks are like, oh, well, that's counterproductive, right? No, what's counterproductive and what's disheartening to like morale within the organization is when like, all right, we got to give a new person 300 hours of initial training, all right? And we spend 100 hours on somebody, particularly if it's just a solo person, okay? If I spend 100, if I get 100 hours into 300 hours of training with 4 people and 2 quit, but 2 make it, that wasn't a waste, right? But I get 100 hours in with like a single individual and then they quit.
Yeah,
I've just burned 100 hours of my time or somebody else's time to train this person, and so like I'm a big proponent of like I'm gonna try to weed you out like day one, okay? Yeah. Because like maybe this is controversial, but this is not for everybody. Okay, it's not for everybody. All right. We are asking a lot of somebody. We are asking you for no compensation for your time, to give up your time with your family, loved ones, your hobbies, whatever it is that you do, like when you're not at work or not at the fire station. We're asking you to drop that, right? So we're going to invest so much time and energy and finances into you, okay? We're going to give you a good, safe place to be, okay? A fun place to be, all right? But at the same time, not everybody is cut out for firefighting, okay? People walk through the door that just want the title. They just want the T-shirt. They just want the hat. They want to walk around. They want to get that attention. They want to get that praise. They want to get that thank you for your service. appreciation that the public has for firefighters, but they don't want to put in the work to earn the title, to earn the position, okay, to earn the public trust. All right. They don't want it that part. They want to come in and reap all the benefits without putting forth the effort. And those folks, I don't have a place for them. Okay. I don't. And my guys will tell you, I know it sounds like, somebody's probably listening to this and they're like, gosh, this guy sounds like an asshole, right? My guys will tell you that I probably give more second chances than I should. Like I literally try to find the good in every person that comes through the door. All right. And I try, like, a young person. Oh my gosh, what do we hear? Oh, this generation, blah, 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 all this stuff. Right. And when somebody says that, I want them to think for a second. All right. One time you were 18 years old, you were 17. Okay. And okay, maybe you knew the difference between a plus and minus screwdriver when you were 17 or 18, right? Maybe you knew how to use a chainsaw or grew up on a farm. All right, great, whatever. But I bet you that you were a snot-nosed kid that thought you knew everything, that annoyed the ever-living crap out of the adults, at the firehouse or wherever it is that you were, right? And so if we held that opinion of you, that of the person you were at 18, all right, throughout your entire life, like, would you have ever gotten an opportunity to do anything in life? So you got to understand that, and you got to have some patience. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes there's some folks that walk through the door that turn out to be pretty good firefighters that, Lord have mercy, they tested my patience, for that first. Okay. And then there's some that, like, they just don't work out, it's just part of it, but you got to have standards. And that kind of goes back to that training thing that I was talking about earlier, right? I use a Nick Saban quote all the time, and I preface it with, it's a little easier now that he's retired, but, I'm a Tennessee Vols fan, go Vols, through and through. All right. And, so I'm born and raised to despise the University of Alabama with all of my heart and soul. Okay. But that being said, I'm a realist, and I can't overlook, what somebody like Coach Saban and plenty of other coaches have been able to do, where here you bring in this talent, okay, this top talent from all over the country, that wherever they came from, they were the best in whatever environment that they came from, right? So just think about it, so it's football, right? So it's all like alpha male personalities, probably for the most part, that have always been told that they're the best. They've probably proven that they're the best, right? And you got to bring all these top talent individuals in, and you got to turn around and you got to take them and make them function as one unit, one collective unit, as a team, right? And so, he's got this quote, that high achievers don't like mediocre people and mediocre people don't like high achievers, right? And he goes on, like, as long as you have those two, conflicting, viewpoints, right, you're never going to have team chemistry, right? And I'm paraphrasing some of the rest of the quote, but that's the basic concept. His job as a football coach was to get, the right players on the bus and the wrong players off the bus, right? Well, when you look at managing and leading, okay, and they're different skill sets, right? Leadership is a function of management. Some people don't like to hear it that way, like, oh, you manage things and you lead people, blah, blah, blah. So managing an organization includes a whole lot of different points, right? There's the administrative side, right? There's the leadership side. There's, all these different things that you got to be able to do collectively, right? Now, that being said, you don't have to be a manager of an organization to lead, right? But to lead people, all right, and to get the right people in the right positions. Is that not what we're doing in a fire department? Or are we not trying to get the right people on the team, okay, and get the right people that are on the team in the right positions where they can excel, okay? Are we not hopefully trying to, when we make company officers, get the right people into that company officer role, the right people into those chief officer roles, okay? And then on the firefighter side, getting the right people, the right training, the right equipment, and bringing them together collectively as a team so that they can function as such when they show up at somebody's emergency, right? So there's a lot of similarities, even though it's two different end goals, right? There's a lot of similarities in being able to take people from different backgrounds, all right, different cultural experiences, upbringings, life experiences, socioeconomic backgrounds, so on and so forth. All the people that make up your jurisdiction, okay, that's come through the door and want to be part of this team that you have, all right, and learning that they all have individual personalities. They all need to be led differently. You know, the old days, my way or the highway approach, right? Remember, like, they're here because they want to be. Okay. But we're even seeing now in the studies, and I love it. Man, it makes me so happy to hear Chief Rhodes and Chief Ali talking about, you know, the impact of toxic leadership on PTSD. Okay, in the fire service, because I think I've thought for a long time that for too long, like we tried to blame it on the calls, right? It's, oh, you know, we see the horrible, horrific stuff, you know, that nobody's supposed to see, and yes, we do see that, but that stuff's so much easier to manage when you're a part of an organization that actually cares about you and actually, you know, wants to grow you and develop you, not just as a firefighter and a member of the team, but as a person, right? And so, like, to hear that now finally starting to be talked about on the forefront of the fire service, you know, I think is awesome, and I hope that that conversation continues, and that the right people are listening, you know, and are able to take a hard look in the mirror and look at their organization and say, you know, maybe this retention problem that we have is a little bit deeper than a paycheck, right? Because I feel like in the volunteer fire service, even though there's plenty of examples of departments that screw it up, of, you know, cliques and drama and things internal in the organization that drive good people away. All right, we're seeing the same thing now on the career side. You know, we're seeing the same thing. It's not just a paycheck. I'm not just going up the road to the next fire department because they pay a few bucks more an hour. You know, they're going up the road to the next fire department because they're treated like crap where they're at, and they don't feel like anybody cares about them, right? And so now you can't even say the old, like, oh, well, you know, on the paid side, you know, they got to take that because they got to pay their bills. You know what? They might not be able to walk out the door right then, okay? But if you treat them like crap, they're going to start looking for another place to go. On the volunteer side, like, they're not paying their bills off of, you know, what they're getting from the volunteer fire department. They can literally walk out the door at any moment, and it's not going to impact them financially, right? So you've got to make it a place that they want to be. That doesn't mean it's a free for all and that people get to do whatever. Like, you still got to have standards. Firefighters want structure and discipline. People in general, psychologically, want structure and discipline. Okay. But they want that structure and discipline to be applied fairly across the board. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the part that sometimes seems to get screwed up. So
Yeah, I mean, we do this because, you know, because it makes us feel better. We're giving back to the community. We're doing all of these great things. And I feel very selfish because I do it because it makes me feel good. And I go there and help pick Mrs. Smith off the floor, you know, and, and help her out. And I go home and I feel like I've helped the community somehow. But yeah, if I showed up, and I'm super lucky. Like, our department is amazing. We have everyone there is there for the right reason. We're probably a little older than most departments because we're basically it's a retirement island, but everyone's there because that's across the board. That's what they want to do. And if we had a situation where people would show up and they'd be like, you know, you know, and it was a pain in the ass.
yeah,
Every time you showed up to drill or and there was just a jerk, you know, some people, I mean, no one would put up with it. They'd just be like,
yeah.
I'm out. And so it's, I mean, kudos to you. See, I mean, you've been the chief there for how many years now? Like 15 years or something like that?
Oh, no, not quite that long. So I became chief July 1st of 2015.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Oh,
and
so
and so
10 years.
so yeah,
9 years.
we're just over 9 years. You know, I've been, so October of 2000 when I joined. So this, you know, I'm past that 24-year mark. But yeah, I've been the chief for 9 years, and it's been a learning experience. Let me just say. from July 1st to 20 to
Yeah.
today.
So I mean, yeah, drawing like writing that line has got to be. I mean, it's probably easier for you than some because you're. I mean, every time I see you're so passionate about the fire service, it like oozes from you, like it's like in your blood. But it, drawing that, keeping that line between like, hey, we got to keep this fun, but we got to cover these standards. Like I'm our training lieutenant, so like I look at our yearly thing that everything we got to do, and I'm like, holy cow, there's like there. So instead, like I used to sit there and think, let's put in all the fun stuff, but now it's like, okay, I can't do that. I got to figure out how to make this really boring thing fun. That's my the way I'm trying to look at it this year. But drawing that line, keeping that line, like, because you got to, because if you don't keep your people up to code or up to the standard, and someone gets hurt, I mean, you'll you'll never forgive yourself. And I
Yeah.
know, so I guess how do you keep that uh, stay on that line? I guess.
Well, I don't know that there's a cookie cutter approach, but I'll tell you kind of what the environment is like here. And it's a firehouse. Okay,
Yeah.
you come in, there's pictures on the wall. Like we bust chops a lot. Um,
Mm.
it's not the it's definitely not the most brutal place that I have been as far as that goes. We're probably pretty. We're not G-rated by any means, but we're probably like maybe PG-13.
Okay.
With you know eh, I don't know, maybe depending on the day. Uh, but we have fun, like, and we create that culture. Like when you come in, like everybody's going to talk to everybody. Everybody's going to like cut up and have fun. I mean, so prime example today, right? So one of my guys, he he was backing the apparatus. So we did hose testing this morning, right? And so we have to go out to this big parking lot, and we got a company that comes in and does it. They do a great job, and so he's backing one of the trucks without a spotter. Okay, so he's not following policies and procedures, right? He's backing one of the trucks, and he hits this old light pole, right? And thankfully, like there wasn't even a bulb in the street light. The church whose parking lot we use, like they didn't care. Like the electric company came out, they're like, we're just going to retire the pole. So like it's a good learning lesson with no real harm. There's a little ding in the bumper of the engine, which that bumper's got a lot of dings in it. You're not going to notice a new one. But it's like a valuable lesson learned. And of course, the guy that did it feels absolutely horrible. Okay, so he's embarrassed, for himself. He feels like he let people down, right? So there's nothing like, and yes, I was not very happy, but I did not yell at him. Okay, facial expressions and body language sends a very powerful message. You don't have to choose somebody out, right? And I already know that this guy, like nothing I could say to this guy would make him feel any worse than he already feels, right? For dinging the fire truck.
Yeah.
And so like he knows he messed up, okay, but don't let a good opportunity for fun, pass you by, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so like it's a serious moment, but you assess the situation. There's no harm, there's no foul, right? So I've got to call dispatch. This is technically an MVC with property damage, right? So I call dispatch on the phone. One, because I know I'm going to get the power company out here to deal with this pole a whole lot quicker if I call dispatch than if I try to call the power company, right? Of course, now they
Hmm.
got to send the deputies out because it's an MVC with property damage, and so the deputies get out there, and we got a great relationship with our sheriff's office, right? And it just so happened that these two deputies were the same two we were on a call with um, earlier this week, as a matter of fact. And one of the deputies locked his keys in his patrol car. Okay. And so we got the unlock kits, right? So we broke into his car, so he could get his keys out, right? And of course we had fun with that moment, right? And here we are, a few days later, and now they're showing up and like, oh, well, we're back to fire truck into the light pole, huh? So anyway, I get them over there and tell them what happened. They're like, who's the driver? And I pointed over there to the guy. He's got a broom in his hand, kind of sweeping out the parking lot area so we could lay this hose out. And and I was like, they saw that it was like minor deal. The church wasn't upset. They're just like, let the power company take this thing away. We haven't used it in a decade. And I was like, I would really appreciate it if you guys would like take this as far as you want to in messing with this guy. And so so the deputies, and of course the guy doesn't know yet, right? So the deputies they're asking questions, getting a statement and everything. And have you been drinking? Blah blah blah. Put him through the full sobriety test. He had to do the 9-step walk and turn, and he has no idea. Like, we're sitting back here filming this, it's like this is going to live in posterity, right? There's going to be pictures that go on the wall. I'm pretty sure that one of my guys has already contacted Taylor's Tim's to already get something made to commemorate the event, and it will go on the wall for posterity to never be forgotten. Okay.
Oh.
Now he knows he messed up. Okay. I bet you he doesn't back a fire truck without a spotter ever again. Okay. Yep. And hopefully that other people learn a lesson from that. Right. So is it necessary for me to go and scream and yell at him about what were you thinking? Why were you backing that truck without a spotter? And like, what is that going to accomplish when, in this case, thankfully, the lesson has been learned with minimal damage and fallout in the grand scheme of things, right? And the culture within the organization is going to take that lesson moving forward, but we're also going to embrace the opportunity to screw with the brother for as long as we possibly can until somebody else does something that involves that, right? And so we're cautious, like we take that easy on like new people. Bring a new person in, like it's very delicate, but I also sit down and explain to them, like, look, this is the culture of the organization. So as a new person, like, you're going to see these guys messing with each other, right? And you got to understand that they've earned that, right? They've been here together. They've been working together. They're a cohesive team. You're a new person, okay? You're a new person coming in that wants to be part of the Cool Kids Club, okay? Mm-hmm. Here's how you get to be part of the Cool Kids Club. All right. You show up, you're on time, you communicate, you work hard while you're here, right? And don't think for a second while you're on probation that you ever get to join in on any of the joking where somebody's ragging on ragging on, one of the guys that's been here, because you haven't earned that right yet. Okay. Yeah. You haven't earned that right. And if they do something dumb as a new person, that's typically, how do you earn a nickname in the fire service?
Oh, yeah.
You do something dumb, right? You do something dumb to a new person. We're not hazing you. We're not demeaning you. We're not degrading you. Okay. Yeah. You're going to earn a nickname because, you did something silly or funny or whatever, and it may stick with you forever, and hopefully it does, because that's what the brotherhood, sisterhood is truly about here. And so anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is with that, and I don't have a clear cut. Like I can't give you a recipe to say, oh, well, just do this, this, and this will get you this culture, right? It just is something that has to build over time. And I guess it comes from people being comfortable with one another, right? At the same time, we have a good time, but we teach structure and discipline to our new members, okay? And honestly, I wasn't a fan of this, when I came in as a chief, and I come from a military background. So I'm all like, I get like, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sergeant, no, sergeant, like all that stuff, standing at parade rest for NCOs and attention for officers and all that. I've done that for years. And maybe that's why I don't care about it, because I'm out of that life, and so now I'm going to walk on the grass, I'm going to, all those things that you couldn't do in the Army. Right. And so, I never was really that big on, you got to call me chief or, the captain's or whatever. But the organization kind of started policing that, and it was really interesting. So when my dad stepped down from being chief, he stayed on the department, and another fella, Jason Odell, stepped in as a chief, and so he was a chief between me and my dad being chief, and so we all knew Jason as Jason, right? We knew Jason. He was a firefighter. You know, he was lieutenant, he was captain, he was assistant chief. Now he's chief, right? And he was always Jason, you know, and there was no disrespect ever intended, you know. That's just like that's how you know him. He was Jason, right? And so my dad actually was the one, and he never did this as chief. When he was chief, he was the one that kind of started pushing the maybe we shouldn't call the fire chief by his first name. Like maybe we should call the fire chief chief, you know? And then that kind of morphed into, you know, well, maybe we shouldn't call the captain by his first name. Maybe we should call him captain. All right. To where we are now. And that's how we roll. But the emphasis that I put on, and I just kind of make it blanket across the board because it's so awkward if I'm teaching the intro class to be like, you will call the fire chief, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like it just feels like, ugh, you know, I just don't like it. Right. But I'll tell you where I do get like pissed off with that, right? And that is when you are addressing a chief officer or a company officer of another department. Like if you call me Brandon or Fletch or whatever, you know, I'm probably not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything, okay? Because one, if you do it in front of any of my guys, they're gonna police it, right? I don't have to say anything, okay? But we do teach that respect of that position when dealing with other agencies and organizations, right? Like, and even to the point where I've had to have the conversation with some of the officers in the department, right? Because like some of these guys that are chiefs in other departments, like we've known forever, right? And we're on a first name basis with them because we've known them that long. And so if we refer to them or talk about them in public, like we may refer to them by their first name because that's how we know them. And so I've tried to kind of start breaking that habit, even myself, and refer to them as Chief so and so or Captain so and so, just so we don't pick up that habit. And while this sounds silly, okay, you know that I spent that much time talking about it. Where I'm going with that is, at the same time, we have a culture of structure and discipline in addition to having a structure of fun and brotherhood and sisterhood. And so like there is the balance there. Um, and so like, you know, Fireground, like we know it's very regimented. Okay. When the officer tells you, you know, to do something, blah, 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 like, you know, here's how it is. When we're in the station, like in the day room, kitchen, you know, in that area, it's kind of fair game. Everybody's, you know, cutting up, having a good time. When we hit the drill field, it's time to shut up and listen and function and do what we're told. We're still going to have fun, you know, in the process. Like we can make throwing ladders fun. Okay. Like, I mean, and who enjoys throwing ladders, you know, I mean, unless you come from that culture, because there are some departments that like, you know, throw the crap out of some ladders. Right. But I mean, just using that as an example. And so when we talk about training, you know, when your members, you know, you're high performers, hopefully you've cultivated high performers, right? Um, and they show up on a drill night, they want to do training. They want to gear up, they want to suit up, they want to stretch hose, they want to do firefighter stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I guess one way, like how do you build that culture? You know, one way is you do firefighter stuff because people that sweat together, okay, that work hard together, okay. You know, now we have fancy terms for it. Like we, you know, in the Army we did it like, you know, it's called basic training, right? We're going to break you down, you know, to nothing, okay, and then we're going to build you back up, and you're going to, by the end of graduation, you're going to be functioning as a cohesive unit. Like here you were, a whole bunch of individuals from all over the country, you know, with your own individual thoughts and cultures and beliefs and whatever, and we just tear you down for the first 2 or 3 weeks and then start building you back up, and you walk out of there on graduation as a well-oiled performing machine, right? You know, now I think they call that trauma bonding. But And I'm not saying beat your guys down on a training night, but for example, if we were running scenario training, for a drill one Monday night, which means like, so we'll do drills where like we do like some individual skills, this week and some individual skills the next week that are all kind of related. So like, we want to ultimately do a VES drill. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we're going to practice, everything from donning and doffing PPE and, air pack, confidence, search, ladders, the actual VES skill itself. Right. And then we're going to, like 2-3 weeks later, like after doing these individual skills, we're going to do scenarios. We're like, okay, the rig's responding in from offsite. We've got our little training trailer or, the bay or whatever we've got set up for training. They don't know what they just get an initial dispatch. You're responding to a structure fire at 123 Main Street. Caller advised that may possibly be people inside. Like you would get responded to a call, right? And they show up, and whoever's running the scenario kind of gives them the information. This is what you see. We try to add whatever visual effects, smoke machines, digital fire, burn barrels, whatever, whatever's appropriate for the, the scenario. And so you run that, and so now there's a 3-hour drill where you probably ran 2-3 scenarios in that time period where like you busted your tail, you sucked down some cylinders, you worked together, you sweated together. Okay. And, we're not going to vote you off the island if you weren't at drill that night, right? But like the next drill or the next time we're down at the station for a call, those guys are going to be talking about, oh yeah, the other night at drill, Jim did this and Johnny did this, blah 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 blah, right? And so like now there's that bond, right? And if you weren't there, now you kind of feel like you're on the outside looking in. Like nobody's like being an asshole because you weren't there. Like maybe you were on shift, because I got a bunch of my guys that work full time other places, right? So I mean, I can't get, like with the schedules I've looked at, I can't get all 17 members in one spot at the same time without somebody taking off work. That's just how it is, right? But now you're going to be like that whole, what the kids call it, FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? Which is a great incentivizer to come to drill, right? Because you don't want to be an outcast voted off the island, like looking in. You want to be part of the cool kids club, right? So when you do a fun, like just jam up drill, and the guys are talking about it and they're riding that high for like the whole week, waiting for the next drill, the folks that weren't at drill, like, man, I got to make sure I'm at drill next time so I can jump in on this, like,
Yeah.
That builds a strong culture too. So that's awesome. One you can do,
That's awesome. Well, I've already had you for over an hour, but I want to ask you one more question, and it's a fun one. What's the craziest call you've, without, just without, getting in trouble with HIPAA or anything? What's the craziest call you've ever been on?
Craziest, like crazy how? Like,
oh, I don't know. So what I found out, the reason I asked this question is I find that you ask anyone that's been in the fire service for at least 5 years, and you get talking to them over like a beer at FDIC, like sometime in that conversation, some call comes up, and you're like, that there's no way that really happened. Did that really happen? And they go, yeah, it did. And so I'm just kind of curious if you
well, like, I guess so. I mean, like I can define crazy like so many ways. Like I can think of a couple of like just kind of crazy extrications. I can think of one unique kind of crazy fire event, just how it all unfolded. I can think of, I I call it sometimes. So I don't know if you ever watched like Jon Stewart show back in the day, especially, but he had this little, like these are the people in your neighborhood rendition that he would do of that song or whatever from, I don't remember if that was like Sesame Street or whatever. And so anyway, like sometimes like some of the places that we go, remember we live out in the country, it's rural. Okay. Yeah. All different, types of folks that you run into. And so yeah, I mean, like, so I can go down that route, but I mean, I don't know. Gosh, craziest calls.
The one that makes you laugh the most. How's that?
Well, okay.
I don't know.
So I don't know. I guess where I'm leaning to, like one of the craziest, weirdest things was so there was this fire situation that we had, right? Mm-hmm. So we get dispatched out for a grass fire, for this field fire, right? That we arrive on scene, and it's obvious that like some sort of electrical event has taken place here with the power lines and the power pole that set the grass on fire, and it's kind of tall grass, and it's like not a big deal, right? You're having to hop over fences and stretch booster lines and all this stuff, right? So we get this thing contained, maybe a couple of acres, like real quick contained, and then we're like as we're packing up, okay, and we're getting like literally the last stuff back on the truck. Gilt edge fire, standby for structure fire. What blah 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 address, right? Which is literally right down the road and make a right on the next road from where we're at. Okay, so like you couldn't have. I mean, like literally, the what slowed us down was, everybody's dressed for a wildfire. They've got their structural gear on the truck, and we're like 45 seconds away from this house that has an attic fire rocking. Okay, and so literally, like the guys are pulling up, and they're still trying to get dressed, right? Because they had to throw their coats on and SCBAs and ditch their wildland and like and all this stuff, right? And like we pull up on this thing now, mind you, like so I'm in my truck, so I hop in my truck, boom, I'm gone, right? And it's literally like just go up, not even a half mile turn right. The house is like you can see it, right? It's blowing out the delta side of the attic gable, and but on my way there, I passed 3 more grass fires on the side of the road, and I'm like, what the,
Wow.
like trying to pick, like, so here we were on this big field fire that got called in. Then there's this attic fire, okay? And then in between the two, there's these multiple spot fires along the way, all underneath the like power lines or at the power poles, right? So like I'm radioing to the mutual aid because I'm like, oh, my guys, come to the structure fire, right? But the mutual aid automatic aids dispatched, and I'm like, hey, will you guys hit these spot fires along Elm Grove and Waits Road and all this stuff, right? And so like we pull up, and like I say, it's blowing out the delta side gable. I got like half my gear on, and like the homeowner meets me in the front yard. He's like, it's in the attic, it's in the attic. And of course I'm like, no shit, like it's blowing out the delta side, but thanks, and like he gets the storm door open because he's like, my front door's locked because I came out the back, and and so it's funny, I'm a big forcible entry guy, right? Big on the irons and all this stuff, right? And so the guy, he's got his keys, and he gets the storm door open or whatever, and he's like trying to get the wooden door open, and he drops the keys, and I'm just like, like just get out of my way. Like I know I can put a foot through this door, And so anyway, I put a foot through the door, clear visibility, on the first floor. So it's obvious like this is just a pure attic fire. Attic access is right there. Pull it, crack it, like, oh yeah, that's rocking. Close that back, and waiting on the guys. And of course, they're like, they're right behind me. Where are the guys at? Where are they at? And of course, they're pulling up. Well, they're still trying to get dressed because we were like 45 seconds away, and they were still like packing stuff up. And so anyway, they bring it in, they stretch the line in, pull the attic door, knock it out, get up in the attic, and anyway, all of that was and they never figured out what the electrical event was, but this was all from the same electrical event. Whether a squirrel, got on the power line, and arced across, or a tree branch or something, but something arced across the power lines, okay, and created multiple points of heat and electrical arcing that lit up multiple points along the roadway in this little area, and ended up going as far as damaging, like, because it was started in the heating unit in this guy's attic, and like all of this from some nobody knows what happened to create this electrical event that started every one of these fires. So it ended up being that one fire, 3 spot fires, and then the attic fire, all interconnected within that same,
Wow.
time right there.
That's cool. That's
so
cool.
I don't know. Maybe that's not like some of the funny, redneck stories that I got, but I mean, like that was always been a weird one to me. like I've made plenty of electrical fires. We made plenty of fires that, something grounds out, goes to ground, starts a fire at the base of the pole, or, transformer blows or something like that, or electrical fires, that are structure fires. But to have that series of events, okay, here we go, big grass fire, couple 2-3 acres, cool, got it. And then, oh, there's a house on fire, and then there's 3 fires going along the way. So it just one of those weird days.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Well, I guess sorry, I lied. One last question. So I know you go out, you teach a lot and stuff like that. So I guess what do you have coming up for you coming anytime soon, or if people want to
Yeah.
get hold of you, how do they get hold of you?
So yeah, I'll cover all that. So right now, so I teach down in Anniston at the Center for Domestic Preparedness pretty regularly. I teach hazmat ops and hazmat technician down there, so that actually keeps me pretty busy. I average about once a month down there. Great place, I love it. Meet people from all over the country, teaching down that way, and so as far as like on the conference circuit, I will be at the Les Lukert Winter Conference in February in Kearney, Nebraska. Let's see, I will be at the NOVFA, which is the Northwest Ohio Volunteer Firefighters Association. Their winter conference is in March. So I'll be there teaching. I don't have the dates right here in front of me, but you can look either of those up on Facebook or Google. But that's a great little conference. The NOVFA conference is free.
Wow.
So you can and you don't have to be from Ohio. You can sign up and come down. They have some great instructors that come down for that particular event. And then in June, let's see, I'll be at South Dakota State Fire School. And again, I don't have the dates right there in front of me, but I'm definitely excited about that. I know a couple of guys that I've met through my travels, and that's how I got hooked up with that group. So on the circuit, that's kind of what I got going. I just wrapped up Tennessee River Weekend here in Savannah, Tennessee, back last not this immediate past, but the weekend before last. So that was a good time as well. But yeah, I'm kind of low key on that because the CDP kind of keeps me busy. Yeah. But I'm always open. Like I love traveling. I've been to North Dakota, been to Nebraska, been to several different places in Ohio. Got a gig. Got to wait for all the final details to come out. But I got a gig for a department coming up. Looks like in Ohio, but they got to go through the procurement process and all that. So I just I don't know when that's going to be yet, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I stay pretty busy. Write a few articles here and there. And really spend a lot of time and energy here in Gilt Edge. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We just received a lot of our stuff from last year's AFG. We're working on the current AFG that just opened up. So it's a madhouse around here.
Did it open up already?
Yeah, it opened. It opened up Tuesday. Yeah,
okay, I'm going to call you tomorrow.
I figure you will. I was surprised you hadn't already.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that opened up. So of course, then if that's opened up, Safer is going to be coming right behind it. FPNS is going to be coming right behind it. And so yeah, it's a never-ending cycle. But you know what? What else would I be doing? If I wasn't doing that. But yeah, if folks want to get a hold of me, I'm easy to find. They can reach out to me on Facebook. You may or may not find me if you Google Brandon Fletcher. But if you go with let's see. Goodness, I'm having you may have to edit that one out. Give me a second. Chief Fletcher 901 on Facebook, and that'll also find me on Instagram. If you want to email me, I can be reached at docfletch135 at yahoo.com. That's DOCFLETCH 135 at yahoo.com. And so, yeah, if you have questions or want me to come talk to your department or group or organization, feel free to reach out. Be glad to help you out best I can. As you can attest, I do respond to emails, and telephone calls, and try to help you out best I can with whatever you got going on. So
so I just did Google you, and apparently you're also a Canadian actor.
Am I really?
Yeah.
Any idea like who I need to talk to about? Like seeing some income off of that.
I know. I'll look into that. Well, Chief, I really appreciate your time. I know you're super busy. So Thanks for everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time on the 85%.